And the light bulb moment comes usually when they discover the first mistake. I rarely have any construction site where they don't discover 2-3 mistakes, which they could have prevented with Gamma.
This series of episodes was recorded live at Digital Construction Week 2025 at the Excel in London. I got the privilege of interviewing some amazing people that are shaping the future of the built environment through the technology that organizations are developing and delivering now and for the future. Although this podcast was worth the entry fee alone, let's admit it, now is the time to register your interest for next year's Digital Construction Week 2026. But if, like me, you can't wait until next year, check out Digital Construction North on the 19th of November. The links to both events, as always, are in the show notes. But just before we go live with this week's episode, here's a brief intro to the topic we cover and today's guest. Augmented reality is becoming an increasingly valuable tool in the construction sector, offering new ways to bridge the gap between digital plans and physical sites. We've covered this topic already way back in episode 9. Can AR be a true reality? Where founders of Gamma AR, Dolas Jayan Jevanesan, were kind enough to open up about the benefits of AR within the built environment. And since then, the use of this tech has simply intensified as the industry looks for solutions that improve accuracy, collaboration, and efficiency. AR is moving from an emerging technology to a practical asset with clear business cases. Beyond immediate project benefits, there is also the growing interest in how AR can support skill development and attract the next generation of construction professionals. So let's chat to someone from a familiar organization, shall we? I'm delighted to welcome Alexander Sidorov, the COO and CFO of Gamma Technologies, a colleague of Kena and Jayan, who I mentioned earlier, and the company behind Gamma AR. He drives the company's strategy and operations and has 10 years of experience in corporate finance and venture building across various industries, including construction-related and technology-orientated projects. He also contributes to business development efforts for Gamma Technologies across several geographies, including the UK, and is obsessed with best practices and efficient deployment of field-based context solutions. Alexander, first of all, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Lovely to be here.
Can you just explain to the listeners, I suppose, what you do and what you're actually doing here at Digital Construction Week?
Yeah, I'm Alex. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of Gamma AR. And what we do is we have an app that allows you to bring BIM models to the site.
Yeah, it's almost as simple as that. Well, it is as simple as that. And I've got to say, off the bat, I'm a huge fan, like big fan of what it actually does, which we'll get into. So let's start with looking at the real business case for construction organizations adopting AR technology like Gamma
AR. Yeah, absolutely. So the first use case people start with is QA/QC. So they come on site, they have already built everything, and they open up the app and they overlay the model over the reality so they can compare, oh yeah, this is something we've done correctly and this not. As they move along, as they gain trust to the solution, because it's a new way of working, of course, they start to thinking about, hey, last time I looked at the drawing, I misinterpreted something. Now let me just double check with the augmented reality. And they start seeing problems before they happen. So they start working preventatively. And then in the end, the handover is something which is very powerful at the very end, because the GCs will be delivering the building to the asset owner, and the asset owner will say, hey, you promised me to deliver this model. How does it look? Well, now you can show exactly that it looks exactly the same.
Is there a lot of hand-holding in that whole process from start to finish?
From our side, you mean?
Yeah, from your side, yeah.
Well, you are operational within 10 minutes, and there are a couple of buttons only. So the technical onboarding takes maybe 15 minutes in total.
Wow.
However, what is a little bit difficult for some people is just to get a new mindset that you're not just looking at a drawing or another drawing and a third drawing at the same time and try to imagine them, but now you have something where you can very quickly see things. And sometimes for some people, this is easy, intuitive. For others, they're a little bit prudent with this. Some people say, well, now I cannot charge overtime anymore because, well, there's no excuse for me to make a mistake.
Yeah. Absolutely, yes. So some difficult conversations sometimes to have from that perspective. Okay, so sticking with that, do you have any solid, and you don't have to mention names, but do you have any solid, concrete examples of how this has played out for your clients?
Absolutely. One of our biggest German customers, for example, has crazily efficient processes established. And nonetheless, what they do with Gamma is mainly increasing efficiency still. So just to give you a benchmark, they can build 30, 40 floor high rises within 8 to 12 months, okay, on average. And yet they say that for coordination, clash detection, KUKC on site, with Gamma, they gain around 80% against their other methods. And they actually measured this on more than 80 projects. So they go one floor with Gamma, one floor without Gamma, and then they just compare results.
Okay.
And they say this is something which they can measure, which is even more benefit driving, but more difficult to measure is every mistake you prevent is a mistake which doesn't happen. So how do you measure this? It's like insurance, right? If there is no accident happening, you don't really know whether your insurance is worth it. But when it happens, you're happy you had it. Same thing here. So they say every week they discover a couple of mistakes, and each of the mistake essentially pays already for the whole solution.
And was that their plan to do one floor with Gamma, one floor with that?
Absolutely. We are trying to fight with every construction client to try to get any statistics. And they are the ones who are actually doing statistics on a regular basis for all evaluation of the tech. So they had an established process.
So that's quite an interesting process if you think about it, because you're kind of saying to them, use it and then don't use it. But that it's the perfect way of showing the efficiencies that it can have.
Yeah, the problem is that sometimes people start measuring stuff when they start using Gamma, but they don't have anything to compare it to because they never measured before. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So taking a step back then, is there, because I suppose I don't want to say new, because it's not new, but it can be for a lot of organizations, particularly utilizing it for work purposes.
Yeah.
So is there, when you're talking to new clients or there's that implementation, although it's like 10, 15 minutes to set it up, is there that light bulb moment, or even before they start using it, where they think, we've got to have this, we've got to use this now?
Yeah, absolutely. So usually when you ask about onboarding, we try to do as many onboardings as possible physically with the people, because it's just about giving them the iPad and looking at them while they do this, because they feel the pressure, so they actually try to do it. And then after a couple of minutes, they figure out, okay, it's not so difficult. And the light bulb moment comes usually when they discover the first mistake. I rarely have any construction site where they don't discover 2-3 mistakes, which they could have prevented with Gamma. And in this moment, it's done.
Wow, that's fantastic. And if you're one thing that I'm recognizing while I'm recording these podcasts is it seems to be very much those people that are on the ground, those people that take the time to go to these sites, to show these things, to highlight these things, it's far more beneficial in the long run and the short term than it is to say, oh, we've created this tech, here you go, you use it.
Yeah. I must say for us, it was also learning a little bit.
Yeah.
Because usually who discovers our tech? It's typically the technical people from the office, right? But they're not the ones who are going to be the end users. The end users are the people in the field, and they don't have time to try out new technology, right? So if you show them the respect that you go there and you give your time so that they can learn something, usually they appreciate it and they take the time to learn this, and this makes a big difference. And I do feel that sometimes when different technology providers, when they try to sell to customers, they try to sell still to the office and they try to sell the new revolutionary thing. People on the ground, they don't need revolution. They need something which makes processes which they have already a little bit more efficient. It's something which doesn't take a crazy learning curve.
Okay, that's an interesting way of putting it, and I hadn't thought of it like that. And it makes perfect sense. And as a marketer, it's kind of what I should be focused on. But what's their problem? Let's solve that. Done. Let's implement it.
Yeah.
Fantastic. One thing that you said there and at the start is that 10, 15 minutes done, you can start using it. It's a few buttons and it's sorted, but there's still that adoption of technology for some people can even be complex in terms of, well, speak to my dad, for example, and taking a photo on a phone is just unnatural to him. I don't think he ever will. But is there any issues with that implementation with people that aren't that tech savvy?
Well, it happens occasionally that I'm showing the solution to some, like a project manager or superintendent on site, and they say, "Oh, it's amazing. Can I try?" I say, "Yes, of course." I hand them my iPad, and they turn around and call for a younger guy to hold it. Yes, this does happen from time to time. But I will say the beauty of using a tablet is that most people are already familiar with using tablets on site. So it's not something which, and maybe, yes, you're right, AR is not new. But people were not ready to use iPads even 10 years ago, right? So now it's there. That's also the big question we are asked frequently. Why don't you have headsets? Well, maybe at some point when they are safe on site, we will have them if there are some providers offering this. But more importantly, it will take some learning time for people to get used to use a new device.
Yeah.
Tablets are usually acquired, and we don't try to be a solution which handles everything, right? We try to be a fat finger solution essentially, right? So you have a button to scan a QR code and position yourself if somebody set it up for you, or you can position yourself with a couple of clicks directly, and then you can create issues. You can go into the informations for each of the elements, and you can change transparency. Essentially, these are 3 buttons which people use, and they don't need to know about any other features, which might be a little bit advanced for other users, right? And people like this.
Yeah.
They are typically they're overwhelmed with a lot of buttons and a lot of features, and they never use none of them.
Yeah. And it's always the simplicity in technology that wins out, and that's what you're highlighting there. So looking to the future then, how is Gamma AR going to evolve to stay ahead of the game and competition?
There are a couple of things which are already helpful from the hardware providers. So since tablets and phones become better and better, the solution itself will become by default better, all augmented reality solutions. Now, what happens on the other side is we do have a lot of different clients with very, very specific use cases, specific models. We don't see ourselves as a solution which tries to handle everything on site, right? We have our niche, which is visualization. And then we try to enable people to use this part. And there are a couple of things which we are still improving, and we will keep improving. No software is ever complete, except for Excel. But then outside of this, we integrate with other solutions, right? We want people to keep their existing workflows, to keep using them. So I see a big push in the different integrations that they will become even more seamless, so that people just have a nice experience.
Yeah. Okay. That's cool. So it's, again, user experience, human centric,
Exactly.
rather than tech centric. Fantastic. Speaking of the human element, do you think AR has a place to help attract, train, and empower the next generation of construction workers?
I think that in an industry where people don't choose to have a back-breaking career, and where the demand through data centers and whatnot, right, is rising all the time, it is just very strange that not much more effort is done to actually attract new talent. And people think that they will be attracting people with just higher salaries and something else.
Yeah.
This may be the case, of course, but young people, they are used to have tech, and nobody thinks about construction as a tech-enabled industry. And I must say, so I have a corporate finance background. I've worked in M&A before, mergers and acquisitions, and I worked in a lot of different industries. And I must say, even for me, construction was kind of a discovery. There are much more technologies involved here than in any other project I've seen, right? No banking employee will have as much access to cameras and drones and whatever, and augmented reality on site, right? So this is exciting, but it is only exciting if people are actually using it, and it's not just a fake presentation at a career show.
So it's the way you're seeing it is it's about the flexibility within the industry to have that technology in so many different areas and utilize it in so many different ways. That is the attraction.
Yeah, exactly. So once people outside of construction understand that this is a kind of a standard, it will be much, much easier to attract people.
Yeah.
Because they will thinking about a career in construction as a career in tech.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with you there. Okay. So final question here. 10th year anniversary of Digital Construction Week. Where are we going to be in the industry in 10 years' time in terms of technology?
I would say we will have much more clearer use cases for AI. That's for sure. We will have many more interesting robots application. I still surprised that I see at some shows a lot of very promising stuff, and then things disappear a year or 2 years later. I think this will come at some point, right? And this interaction between human experience and data-driven human experience, and with addition with any robotic components, I think this will be a big thing. Will it happen in 10 years? I don't know. But what is sure, since we have a kind of an aging workforce, which also means we have a renewal of workforce, and we have younger people coming in who are used to play with this and who are less afraid or maybe a little bit less risk averse to try new things. Because maybe part of this is that it was normal to have a career for 20, 30 years within the same company, right? Young people coming in, they know that they might be in for 5 years, so they want to take everything. They're okay if they take a risk and it burns and just jump to another place. But this allows them to actually take more risks, to implement more things and drive things. And now this generation of people start getting to places where they take decisions on site of where budgets are allocated. So I do see a tremendous change over next time to make all of these different spot solutions working smoothly together in an actual setup process. Yes.
Fantastic. Alexander, thank you so much. Like I said at the start, huge fan. Really appreciate you taking the time to speak to me today. Absolute pleasure.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.